Genetic testing gained prominence in the 1980s, and since then tests have been used for things like forensic analysis and paternity testing. The world quickly became familiar with this new method, and not long after DNA testing was commercialized. Advertised for home use, they allow people to learn things about themselves that they never would have known before. For some people, that meant learning about all the different cultures mixed in their DNA, but others discovered things that weren't. One of the people who uncovered some dark secrets of the past thanks to commercial DNA testing was Jessica Stavena. When she took the test, she didn't expect to learn much since everyone knew she was conceived through artificial insemination. But when the results came in, they revealed some unexpected and shocking information. Jessica never expected the test to reveal information about her biological father, but it did, and what she found shook her to the core. The investigation uncovered information that would change not only her life forever, but that of her family as well. What could a DNA test reveal that is so life-changing? Jessica was born in 1987 through artificial insemination in a clinic in California. She was a child prodigy who was a blessing to her parents as they tried and failed to conceive for years. The mystery behind her conception began to unravel years later, and this mystery came as a huge surprise to her entire family. To Jessica, her real father was just a number, a file hidden in some closet, never to be seen again. But then she got a clue, and what she discovered during a commercial DNA test changed her life forever. He was no longer a number, but the truth was far worse than she had imagined. Jessica is now a young mother of 3 and lives in Houston. She runs a successful medical spa at a plastic surgery practice in Houston and lives a full life. What more does she want? Was searching for answers what prompted her to take the DNA test, or was it something much simpler? When she attempted a consumer DNA test to discover the origins of a troubling gastrointestinal issue, she found something sinister. She was confused when she got her online test results back a few months later. Jessica DNA matched that of several unexpected half-siblings from the company's DNA database. In 1984, Jessica's mother, Pauline Chambliss, sought medical help from Dr. Kim McMorris in Nacogdoches after trying for a child for more than a decade. Pauline felt hopeless and desperate. Being a mother was one of her biggest dreams, but several attempts to get pregnant failed. Before meeting Dr. McMorris had tried Pauline at several other clinics, but the results were always the same. After so many failed attempts, she was skeptical, but Dr. McMorris promised that if she followed his instructions and treatment, she would have a child. The doctor. Words gave Pauline the hope she craved, and she agreed. Dr. McMorris told Pauline the procedure would be easy, and Pauline hoped the treatment would finally bless her with the child she so desperately wanted. All she ever wanted was to be a mother. After struggling for so many years, she was willing to try anything to have a child of her own. Pauline made several attempts to talk to Dr. McMorris, helped to get pregnant, but they were unsuccessful. They went through various donors listed with the California Sperm Bank, but their attempts were in vain. Pauline began to lose hope, but then Dr. McMorris told them about a donor they hadn't tried before. Dr. McMorris informed Pauline that he had found a local sperm donor, whom he described as a tall, red-haired, music-loving doctor at a nearby hospital. The thought made a glimmer of hope flare in her chest. Pauline saw this new potential donor as her last resort and decided to give him a shot, hoping it would finally work out. The attempt was successful. Pauline became pregnant, and their daughter Jessica was born in March 1987. It was the happiest day of her life, and at the time she could not imagine how her decision would affect her daughter life years later. The father was a random stranger who would never find out about her, would he? Pauline Chambliss lived happily ever after with her husband and raised their daughter Jessica as best she could. Jessica was a blessing, and Pauline was grateful for her prodigy. Little did she know that decades later her daughter would uncover a secret that would shake the whole family to the core. Looking at the DNA test results, Jessica discovered that she had 3 half-siblings, 2 sisters, and a brother. She was shocked and excited by the idea of having many siblings. But things didn't end there. A few days later, Jessica received an email from a woman named Eve Wiley asking if Dr. McMorris also treated her mother. After clarifying some information, Eve shared with Jessica that she was her half-sister. She also told Jessica that her father wasn't who they thought he was. No tall, red-haired, music-loving doctor at a nearby hospital donated to the clinic. It was all one of Dr. McMorris fabricated a lie so that women would accept the cells that were offered. Eve also told Jessica that the sperm donor was no stranger. He played a crucial role in her conception and the conception of several children whose parents came to him for artificial insemination. Eve had found out who her father was, and the news was grim. Just like her half-sister, Jessica, father was actually Dr. McMorris himself. Eve Wiley's mother had used the same doctor to father her. Their mothers lived in the same area and fell victim to their doctor's misguided decision decades ago. When she turned 16 and decided to deal with her birth father, Eva discovered the shocking truth. For years, both Eve and her mother believed her father was donor 1, but it turns out they were wrong. In 1986, Eve's parents visited Dr. McMorris for the same reason as Jessica's mother, and the results were the same. For years, Eve Wiley and her mother believed her birth father was donor 106. She met this donor, they bonded over the father-daughter relationship only to find out he was her father. Decades later, Jessica discovered that she shared dozens of half-siblings and also discovered who the donor of half of her genes was. It was the same doctor who performed the insemination. Dr. McMorris used his cells to impregnate Jessica's mother. He was her real father and not a red-haired medical student. Alongside the life-changing news, she also faced another difficult challenge. She had to tell her mother what she had learned. The news brought Jessica's mother to tears. The way the doctor had cheated on her felt beyond unfair. She was angry and she wouldn't take it without doing something. When questioned about the events, Dr. McMorris said he became a sperm donor in 1970 as a medical student at the University of Texas. Dr. McMorris said he never told Jessica's mother or other patients the truth because protocols are meant to keep all donors anonymous. The news was not acceptable to the distraught woman. In March 2020, Jessica and her mother decided to file a complaint with the Texas Medical Board against Dr. to submit to McMorris. She had asked the board to discipline the doctor for lying to patients and making them pregnant. For Jessica, what the doctor did was a terrible act. He took advantage of her mother's trust in one of her most vulnerable moments. Eve also filed complaints and submitted detailed medical records to the same Texas Medical Board. Committed to their fight, the two women wanted to see the fraudulent doctor go under. The sisters went even further and decided to ensure that no woman would have to endure the same thing again. Though Jessica and Eve's parents didn't choose to become sisters, the women stood together to take over the doctor. They wanted to let people know what happened to their mothers so that such cases can be ended. No woman should be so deceived, and they would make the crime punishable. Even Jessica inspired the passage of one of the nation's toughest laws against a practice now known as fertility fraud. In an emotional testimony before Texas senators, Eve described learning about McMorris' deception and how devastated she was at the news. After hearing the touching story, Texas lawmakers made it a felony for any Texas doctor to impregnate patients with their cells. During her testimony, Eve revealed that she was seeing Dr. McMorris and that he wrote back to admit that he had mixed his sperm with that of other donors to increase her mother's chances of conception. He also claimed that he obtained her mother's consent to use sperm from a local donor, which her mother denies. Although the Texas Medical Board has taken their complaints seriously and new laws have been introduced, Eve and Jessica will never be able to turn back time to help their mothers avoid this type of wrongdoing. The damage has already been done, and they must live with the doctor. But Eve and Jessica get something they never expected. They found each other and have been together from the start. They both have sisters they never thought they would have. So something good came out of their tragic situation. To protect the privacy of those depicted, some names, locations, and identifiers have been changed and are the product of the author. Imagination. Any resemblance to actual events, locations, or persons living or dead is purely coincidental.